the amazing thing. Okay, let's switch our attention now to phosphorus. Phosphorus is also a limited nutrient, and this is primarily what it looks like. Unlike nitrogen, which is really kind of an organically derived thing, phosphorus really is leaching from rocks, and it's also considered an essential nutrient for you. So forms in rocks in the form of phosphate ions, mixed in with lots of other things. This ends up getting absorbed directly by the plants through their root systems, and it works its way up the food chain that way. So a lot of the phosphorus that you need naturally can come straight from the plants that you eat, assuming you eat plants, which you should. Now, it's also a large component of cow manure. So if you had a cow or a couple cow on your farm, not a big deal. They'd wander all around and they'd poop here and there. But when you confine a huge number of cows into a very small amount of area, the system cannot lock up the phosphorus fast enough. And you get this accumulation, and you also get unsanitary conditions. And ultimately, this is a huge problem. Cutting down trees, cutting down forests, actually causes the phosphorus to leach from the soils and get deposited into water bodies, and it creates huge problems. And now we are also supplementing with phosphorus-based fertilizers, which are derived from, yes, you guessed it, fossil fuels. Okay, so just briefly, what is a limited nutrient? Well, again, if you need 10 different things to make your machine run, having 9 of those things doesn't help. You need all 10. And in this case, this bucket here, notice how the boards on it are all of different heights. It doesn't matter how much water you want to hold in that bucket. You can only hold as much water as the plank that is shortest will allow. So in this case, nitrogen in this little diagram here is the weakest link in the ecosystem. It's the one that is in shortest supply relative to the organism's needs. So nitrogen and phosphorus are usually considered the limiting nutrients for both terrestrial and aquatic systems. Usually it's nitrogen for marine systems and phosphorus for freshwater systems, but not always. And recently we've come to appreciate one other micronutrient which appears to be very important: iron. So this is also in limited supply, and it turns out that algae require very small amounts of this. And if you go out to anywhere in the ocean and you measure the iron content, you will find that it is extremely low in concentration, but that when you dump iron onto algae, they get this burst of growth, and they begin to take off. So there were some researchers at USC recently who thought, well, hey, why don't we just fertilize the ocean with iron and encourage the algae to grow astronomically? Well, when you have a lot more algae, what potentially could happen? Well, you have a whole bunch of photosynthesizers. You have an increase in the number of photosynthesizers. Maybe that's a solution to global warming by sopping up all of the extra carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Well, that was a little bit of a pipe dream and not realistic, but it was a neat idea. Okay, so where does the iron come from that we see in low amounts throughout the world's oceans? Turns out it's coming from the Saharan desert. So the global winds blow from east to west off of the west side of Central Africa and of the coast of Africa, and all that dust gets blown out into the Atlantic Ocean, but it even makes its way all the way to the Pacific Ocean. So you get this global dust which kind of stays in the atmosphere as it circles the globe, and it's increasing algal productivity not just in the Atlantic but also in the Pacific. And this is the reason why they thought, ooh, let's focus on the Pacific because it's the biggest water body. If we can do that, well, maybe we could fix all our problems and suck up that extra CO2 in the atmosphere. Again, not realistic. However, here's the October 2000 issue of Nature. So 11 years ago, we were looking at this going, oh, hey, this might be a solution for us. So the guy's name was John Martin. He was actually at USC, and he's the guy that discovered this. So the primary source is through wind dispersal, but it's a neat idea. Anyway, we're going to discuss the cycling of nutrients and how humans have altered this a little bit more later. And so this now is the conclusion of this lecture.